It's a great day to be a Coyote. Welcome, Coyote Nation, to another episode of Back to Pack Podcast, where we are going to be bringing you all of your favorite games, memories, and, of course, discussion with our fellow Coyotes. As a disclaimer, we have no affiliation to the University of South Dakota. This is a podcast ran by fans for fans. The ideas and comments do not represent the university. Our opinions are our own. Be sure to find us on Twitter at BackToPackSD. With that being said, let's jump in. All right. I got one way that we're going to start this, and it's only one way that we can start this. Yeah.
Of course it is.
I got a whole lot of money. Y'all it for me. Bottle keep popping that water bag jacket. It's a party, it's a party, it's a party. It's a party, it's a party, it's a party.
I tell you what, it was an absolute party in the Dome this weekend.
Oh, dude, it was a party that. I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum just in the last 24 hours, right? That's probably the greatest game of all time in the Dome, right? I mean, that was so much at stake. Number one teams in town, in front of a sold-out crowd. That was it. That was the pinnacle for me, at least. It was incredible. I mean, just had the FCS world on fire.
And it's not even having the FCS world on fire like that. We all knew it was something was going to happen on that side for the playoffs. What it really just, I think it solidified a lot in the fan base itself. I think we all just kind of learned a little bit more about who we are as Coyote fans.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's actually how I kind of want to open this up, if you're okay with that, Grant.
Mm-hmm.
I did a little recon work over the last 24 hours or so. Credit to all of you Coyote fans. You guys are all amazing. And I tell you what, we got some pretty cool videos. I reached out to as many people as I could, asking for videos. I wanted to see the true reaction out there. And so I got these pulled up. I want to drum them up a little bit. And the first ones here are coming from Coyote fans down in Texas. So I want to show you guys this. And then we got fans throughout the stadium. I mean, I can't share my personal video because we are keeping this PG. And the emotions I was going through during it was absolutely insane. But here is our first one. Go ahead and get that started. I love these kids' passion on this.
Come on. Oh, he's open!
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Dude, these guys, they're lifelong Coyote fans. Now, I want to get more information. It's Tara Starr is who this is from, and this is her family. And I'm going to give you just a little fill-in on this because I thought it was really neat. If you aren't part of our Facebook page on the Coyote FCS Nation page, join us. There's a lot of great Coyotes on there sharing all sorts of content similar to this. But this, like I said, comes from Tara. They live in Houston. Her brother and cousin both played football for the Yotes, and she even played basketball and rugby back in the day. And so I think she just kind of created 3-4 more Coyote fans right there with this, sharing the moment with the family.
That would certainly do it. I have a feeling she's in some way related to Tyler Starr, I'm assuming, but
actually not. That wasn't my same comment that I made as well.
Oh,
okay. She is not.
Okay.
She did get a chuckle out of that when I asked.
It's got to be a common question.
Exactly. So I believe this is from Joe Cotton's mom as well. We're going to pull this one up now. And this is while they were in the stadium.
The in-stadium videos are fantastic. I've seen them on Twitter all day.
And then I can't wait to show you Sarah Wells's too. And it's just all this passion from these Coyote fans. This is what sports is made of. This is how you create lifelong memories with your family, with your friends. It's fantastic. And so here's from Sarah. I love this angle that she got. Absolutely perfect.
That's a great one.
Scream and all, it's all fantastic.
That's a great one.
Now, I'm going to do one more here. Let's see if I can remember which one it was. This is from the student section. So we
That's
got
my neck of the woods over here.
Exactly. So this is after the game ended. Let's see. She sent one other that squealers. It's so awesome. And this one's just a short one, so we'll pop it up quick too. There, it's just going wild. And I'm gonna stop doing that now.
It was. We were talking about this too. Actually, me and my wife were talking about this. That's the loudest the dome, in my opinion's ever been. Was right after the catch, right? And the crazy part is not only was it so loud in the actual moment, but it just stayed so loud for like a minute straight. People could not stop screaming, jumping, cheering, like whatever it was. That was just so cool. The other fun part about those videos, which in the moment you didn't realize it, but the fun thing about that last touchdown is that everyone, as soon as they see how wide open he is, the whole place erupts, even before the ball gets there. And the anticipation is just as much as the actual result of it. So it's cool.
I love, and those are the plays that people will always remember because you got that rumble in the stadium that's loud because everybody sees him. And we got a quarterback that sees him as well. But then the moment that ball left, everybody knew it was a perfect throw, like the moment it left his hands.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden that just went up in volume.
Yeah. That's I was talking with my friend Andy. He's actually in the chat here harassing us a little bit. But so Andy's who I went to UND with. He went to the UND game with me, and he made the comment talking about, we said, is this the greatest moment in USD football history? And he nailed it. He goes, because it was a culmination of things happening right over the course of 4 minutes, multiple huge, enormous plays, which we'll go over here obviously soon. But he's like a culmination of those. We talked about the Hail Mary catch being one, but that was really just one specific moment, as opposed to this one being a whole comeback for so much more than at the time what like the Hail Mary play was or whatever other play. I can't think of anything that had more on the line than what this did, right? Because we talked about this too. 2 weeks ago, we said if the USD is serious about a national championship run, and it starts, this was before UND, we said the playoffs start for them today. You have to win at UND, you have to beat NDSU at home, and you have to put yourself in position to get a top 4 seed. Because if you're not a top 4 seed, the path is extremely, extremely difficult, as history has shown us. So here we are, right? I mean, they've answered the bell, and now they're in position here to do that, make a national championship run.
I am man enough to admit it. After Javion caught that touchdown, I cried. I actually cried after it. It was overwhelming. Just a full range of emotions going through. I will say that is the happiest I have ever been as a sports fan. Prior to my time at USD, watching Iowa State, which obviously they have a very terrible history as a whole. USD, we really haven't taken that step. And I think that's really what got to me is this wasn't a fluke. We went toe to toe with them, punch for punch, and we're going to get into that more as we go. But we did it. And now season number 2 starts.
It's exactly right. And season number 2 starts, and now obviously there's been momentum building all year long, excuse me. around this team. But even to your point, I have people texting me all day yesterday and today and saying, hey, when the tickets go on sale, make sure you get me a couple tickets. Right now, it just creates so much momentum, and a game that exciting makes that momentum just explosive. So I know there's a lot of people very interested in this playoff run, especially knowing that if we win, we get at least two home games that are guaranteed for us if we win, and then depending on upsets and what can happen, you never know, right? You could have up to 3 additional games at the Dome. So very cool. It's a lot of fun, and Andy said in the comments, right? We belong, and that's we proved that and more on Saturday.
Exactly. And so I do want John Schemmel posted a tweet earlier today, and this guy is going to make sure USD is relevant in any moment of time, no matter where we are, whether it is the top of the Missouri Valley or in the middle of it. But he did tweet out, for the haters, it was a sellout. Don't show photos at certain points and act like you have a clue what you're talking about. Yote Nation and Kyle Crazies are the real deal, and so is our football program. Cheer for your program and teams, but don't you dare hate on mine. And I love it. I love the passion. He's right, and it's funny enough. I was texting in my other Kyle group. They were talking a little bit about it, and I chuckled, and I got to read my response because I can't remember it, but I thought it was perfect. It was, we aren't here to impress anyone. We are here to win and enjoy the ride. You never see Bunny fans walking around without a voice on Monday, but I have talked to multiple Coyote fans today who still haven't gotten their voice back. And I tell you what, we may be small, but we are probably the feistiest crowd out there.
Yeah. I mean, that's we've talked about that before. The people who come to the Dome, who are in it, like I said, regardless of the numbers, I don't get too caught up in that discussion. But the people who are in the Dome are active fans, right? I mean, that's what you want. If you want somebody to come to the game and be active fans, and that's what we had on Saturday. That the Dome was rocking from the first snap. And I say that with confidence because that first snap happened right in front of our section.
Oh man!
And no one was sitting. No one was sitting in my section. That's all I know.
Oh yeah, and I think this is the perfect time to transition into it, and we can start talking about the Coyotes' defense on that. But to show out as aggressively as they did to open up the game. Now, if I remember correctly, it was at least 3 and outs in a row.
You're exactly right. I have it written down. I was looking at some stats before. So 3 and outs. And Grace, of course, who else answers the bell in the very first drive, puts up 2 sacks in the first series to send them to 3 and out. I mean, one thing we talked about, again, we talk a lot about this, but the one thing we said is that we cannot have a slow start like we did up at UND against NDSU. You can't come back down 14, right? I mean, you can't come down 10-0, 17-0, whatever you want to say. So I loved that.
But 11's the sweet spot.
11's apparently the sweet spot, right? but yeah, I mean, the defense came out immediately, and you're exactly right. 3 and outs, where I think cumulatively they gained 14 yards on those 9 plays. And meanwhile, the offense was doing their thing, and before you know it, it's 14-0.
I'm actually even crazier. They gained a total of 23 yards in 4 possessions. Their first 4. And I think both you and I said it. The key player on the defense, I think you did say Grace specifically, but we both were very focused on the D-line. And they did a great job. They did give Cam a short clock, but the secondary, I mean, how many of those sacks were coverage sacks? Because Cam had nowhere to go.
Yeah, it was interesting early. It felt like early on in the game we got him uncomfortable almost immediately, right? I mean, he's literally sacked
Mhm.
on the first play of the game. He's sacked on what's a long third, a
I think it
third
was,
down on that same drive, right?
yeah.
And
Let's see.
then,
Yeah.
um, and then your point after that, it's kind of, obviously games evolve with what personnel's out there, but then it really shifted later into the game, in the middle of the game, where we weren't getting as much pressure as quickly, but the DBs were covering so well that he had nowhere to go with it, right? He was
Mhm.
buying time. He was using his feet like we knew he does, and he does extremely well. He just couldn't find anybody open. And so he had to either
Mhm.
resort to, a short run or throwing the ball away. Um, he was, if you look at the passing stats, which I'm sure we'll look at, but he had his least efficient passing game of the season by a pretty wide margin on Saturday. And that's because he
Yes.
saw his best defense that he's seen all year.
So I took a look at this prior to, and I never talked about it in our pregame show, but his most amount of incomplete passes in one game, I believe, was only 7. Was where he maxed out at. Is absolutely insanely efficient, and I'm still on the Cam Miller for the Walter Payton. I still believe
Oh
he
yeah.
deserves
Yeah,
it.
that's I think that was
But
locked in even prior to Saturday, but yeah, I agree with you.
yeah, but then he ended up going 10 of 22. We held him to double-digit incompletions for the first time this season, and that's just absolutely nuts and a credit to the guys because a lot of those, they hit NDSU players in the hands, but we knocked them out.
hmm Yeah. Yeah, that's the impressive part, like you said too, is that we had pressure at every level. And I'll say too, for a guy that throughout the season, I know his completion percentage is top in the country. I want to say it hovers in between 75 and 80%, which is just absurd. So to have him go
Mhm.
10 for 22, well below 50%, that's uncharted territory for him in that offense.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, Jackson does bring it up. Here's the thing, though, to think about too with this secondary was fantastic, but there's a reason they're the number one team in the nation, too. They're
hmm
gonna find a weakness, they're gonna find a crack, and they know how to exploit it. Funny enough, too, I was sitting there thinking, wow, we haven't seen anything from Lance today. And then sure
hmm
enough, hits him on that 48-yard, literally like the next play to hit him. I'm like, oh, there it is. There he is. They're great players. They're gonna find that crack and they're gonna take advantage of it. We had big plays too.
hmm
Ours just all bunched together in the final 4 minutes and 10 seconds. But even in the beginning, Charles and Travis were running like crazy to start the game. It was
hmm
absolutely nuts.
hmm Yeah, the funny part, you mentioned big chunk plays. That seems to be one thing that we have a significant advantage over, at least over the course of the last 4 or 5 weeks, is we seem to always find big chunk plays, kind of regardless of who the
Mhm.
team is. Kind of have done that all year long. And my wife made that comment as well. She's like, in particular on NDSU's extremely long drive, she's like, it's weird. Like they don't do anything impressive, but
They just do it
they just
right.
they do it right. And that's exactly what I told her. I said, yeah, that's half the game, right? It's keep away. And yeah, kudos to them. That's one of the most impressive things that I've seen in a long time. That 20 plays, 99 yards over the course of 11 minutes. That is smash mouth Missouri Valley NDSU football at its finest, and questionable
Yep.
penalty at the end of that drive that maybe should have been 3 instead of 7. But that's what you expect from the number one team in the country.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely wasn't leverage. He had created space. The guy stood up, threw shorter in the air, and so they threw the flag on him instead. But I tell you what, too, and I tweeted about it too. The best part about the Yotes is you sit there and you watch them and you see somebody that you've never seen make a play. And I don't want to say that wrong because Mikey Munn has made plays consistently on the special teams all season long. But aside from me, because I got my two favorite boys out there, and Mikey Munn and Wade Abrams, 3, and Matt Walsh, to watch on that. I'm loving watching those guys, but nobody's really paying attention to what happens there. Mikey was the reason they had to start at the 1 yard line on a punt.
Mhm.
He played it perfectly and locked him in. And there was an opportunity for us to get that sack or for
Yeah,
the safety as well.
right. Yeah, and that's another big thing. It's not the sexiest thing in a football game, but the field position battle in a close game like that is
Hmm.
everything, right? You can't give up a quick score, and I mean that's why we had success early, right? We were winning the field position game, we were scoring points, and jumped out to that 14-0 lead pretty quick. So yeah, and
Exactly. Yeah.
Andy's right. Mikey Munn will be a regular here sooner than later. There's no doubt about that.
And I'm just going to give, for the folks that don't know much about Mikey, he's been he was the Back to Pack's first recruit that we got in on as he developed and got ready to commit to USD. He comes from Colorado. I can't remember high school, but with it, he won state in 100, 200, and 400, if I remember correctly, and it wasn't even close. He is a true freshman. He's got speed, and the amount of times I've gotten texts from coaches about this kid, I'm excited. I mean, they burned his red shirt this year, so he's going to be special.
Yeah, that tells you everything you need to know about what the coaches think about him, right? Because that red shirt's
Hmm.
very valuable, especially when you're building a program long term. And when a guy is just so talented that you don't have a choice, right? That's what we always talked about is, if you want to get your red
Yep,
shirt taken off, don't give the coaches a choice, right? Just, be competing every day and
exactly.
they have to. So it's no, it's exciting to see. It's exciting for what the future holds as well. So, but
Exactly. But now
um
I think it's time to flip it over to the offense, unless you got anything else you want to add.
no, I don't think so. The only other note that I had, and I guess this goes more kind of chronologically through the game, but one thing that I
Hmm.
think was not obviously not highlighted again, maybe not the most explosive play, but when we got the ball at halftime, I said to our group, I said, we need to score here. And I said, doesn't matter if it's 3 points, 7 points, we just need to score here, right? Because they had tied the game up at that point, or excuse me, that they had tied the game up before
Tied
halftime, right?
it going
14
into
14.
halftime. Yep.
Yep. We kind of felt like we lost a little bit of momentum, right? Because it's, kind of
Hmm.
answered back right back. Uh, but again, Will Leland comes up big and gets 3 points on the board on that first drive, and as we know, that made the difference in the game. So I didn't want that to go
Exactly.
unnoticed, and I know we'll talk about the final 4 minutes, of course, here later. But that was something that probably got glazed over. That was a big drive in that moment.
Yeah, and I will say, real quick before we jump over, I remember one of my keys. Do you remember what one of my keys to the game was?
I don't remember now.
I said if we hold them under 50% on third down conversions, we'd have a chance to win it.
Oh, that's right. What was the
And
final stat? I guess I didn't look that stat up.
7 of 15,
Just sneak it under. Love it. I love it.
right there. So no, the defense showed out. You got to remember, and the reason I brought that stat up, these guys convert like 60% of their third downs. And I mean, we did
Mhm.
see it on that 20 play drive. I
I was
think they
gonna
went
say
for
they probably
two fourth down conversions even.
right,
So
right.
technically, we held them on third. It's just fourth and a half a yard
Sure.
makes it tough, anyways.
Yeah, that stat might get a little skewed, but yeah, I'm with you on
Uh,
it.
And then, yeah, now we can jump over to the offensive side of the things
Mhm.
and jump it right into my first key or my other key, start hot.
Yeah, that's what we talked about. I had to start hot, and that's
Yeah,
exactly
we
what we did.
both said that. I just
Mhm.
remembered on my notes.
Yeah. The had to start hot, and that was it. I mean, I think we kind of had everything clicking in those first two drives that we scored on, right? I mean, Bauman was surgical. We were able to run the ball.
Hmm.
Um, really wasn't a lot of things going wrong on those two drives, which is exactly what you have to have when you're hosting the number one team in the country.
Yeah. No, so yeah, with the offense on the first three possessions, we did touchdown, 80 yards, 11 plays. It was just a thing of beauty. Very honestly, it was a very NDSU drive. Run the ball, get a pass because they caught the safety lacking, and Tice gets 23 yards. Another run. We get a sack and an incomplete pass, and everybody's nervous. It's 3rd and 17 on the opening drive. And
Yep.
I kind of leaned over to my wife, and I don't know if people remember so many plays from the time we played them in the playoffs. One play sticks out to me. 3rd and 19 on their opening drive. And I leaned over to my wife, and I'm like, here's redemption. If you want to beat them, this is a play that you beat them on. And Aiden Bauman with an NFLX throw, out route, opposite side of the field, drops it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And the drive continues on. And then Tice, Charles Pierre Jr., Keandre Jones, they just go to work.
Yeah. I mean, it was honestly the perfect start from an offensive standpoint. And then I think everybody was kind of knew it was coming, right? At some point we knew, okay, NDSU is going to answer, right? And that's exactly what they did. And surprisingly, and I would say surprisingly / unfortunately, they answered right back even before halftime. But again, that's why you needed that 14-0 lead right away, because you knew they were going to come storming back.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, unfortunately, we do go into our second possession where it was a 3-and-out, and it gets tricky. This was a drive where you're like, okay, now I see why we miss JJ. Obviously, dude makes plays consistently, but you never know when those plays are happening per se. That would have been a JJ drive, because I know for a fact we went to Jesse Miller on that drive where we went 3-and-out. And it's not that it's tough to follow a Hall of Fame, potentially the best tight end in school history. But to be a true or a redshirt freshman and follow that, you're going to make mistakes on that. With it, he just needs to learn to sit in the zone whenever there's a hole and find that. And that's where you could tell JJ and Aiden have a connection on.
Yeah, it's always hard too when you're filling in for somebody mid-season, because you're exactly right. The timing, the chemistry with your quarterback, that's stuff that takes time, and especially game speed reps, right? Game speed reps, and against, again, the number 1 team in the country, right? And so it's always tough. I think that'll continue to get better every week, obviously, right? The more reps you get, the more practice you get. But yeah, I mean, that's the one thing too. You can't replace somebody who's one of the best tight ends in the country. So certainly miss it there, but we'll talk about it too. Obviously, other folks stepped up in this game that maybe a lot of Yotes were not familiar with in this game too.
Exactly. And I mean, we can kind of keep rolling there. The first half, after the 2 opening drive, or 2 of the 3 drives going for touchdowns, it gets quiet. We definitely had opportunities, but it was kind of us stepping on our own toes more than anything. And I think that's where we struggled at. It was either penalties or they sent a very timely blitz on us, and Tice went for one of the guys while the other guy came off the edge and got Aiden. It was tough to end that half, but you're right. You open up the second half, getting the ball, we got to put points on the board. Momentum's gone out the window, and that's where last year's team crumbled. Because once the momentum left them, it was over.
Yeah, and really, I mean, not even just last year's teams, a lot of teams that maybe aren't resilient and built that way, or not used to kind of the punch back there, especially from a really quality team. It's an easy place to find yourself maybe crumble a little bit and lose that momentum, and a good team will step on your throat every time. So, and it turned out too, right? As we found out, that second half, we really didn't get the ball very much, right? A big part of that being that one long, brutal drive, right? Which, again, kudos to them, right? That's one of the most impressive drives that I've seen in quite some time, is conversion after conversion. And because of it, we just didn't get a lot of opportunities in the second half until the final 4 minutes.
All right, so I just took a look. Sorry, I was counting, and you ended your sentence quicker than I was prepared for it. I did the count, and this includes the final 7-second drive. There were a total of 8 drives for both sides, a total of 8, combining theirs and ours in the second half. compared to 12 in the first half. And the reason why I'm going to keep the one on their 7 seconds is because we got the ball with 26 seconds in the first half. We needed out and took it in the halftime.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a huge difference. And,
right.
you know, you look at that, and we kick a field goal. They go 10 plays for 80 yards in just under 6 minutes. Like, oh. And we 7 plays. Thought the drive looked good, and then it stalls out. And then here comes a fantastic punt between Evil and Mikey Munn, downing him at the 1 yard line. I'm like, okay, surely they can't do anything with this possession.
Right. Yeah, actually, it felt pretty good after that punt, of course. I mean, that's best case scenario.
Yeah.
Say, make them go 99 yards against one of the best defenses in the country. Yeah, I like
Against
our odds
too.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Honestly,
gonna say even we were joking. Even the crowd was tuckered out after that after that drive because you're getting up and screaming and standing the whole time, and you're like, man, how do we get these guys off the field? So that is a tough one, right? I mean, that's the but kudos to them. But I think we got to shift. We got to talk about the final 4 minutes.
Yep.
Exactly. Or as I think Midco tagged it, the 4 minutes of magic is what we put on Twitter. I like that. I love it.
Yep. You got the Vern Miracle and you got the 4 minutes of magic now. And I tell you what, at this point in the game, I'm going to tell you guys, I have 2 memories. All the others I black out for this entire thing. The first memory is right at kickoff. Leaned over to my wife and I said, if we can score before the 2-minute warning without using timeouts, we got a chance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we win this game without the 2-minute warning.
Right. It's funny you say that because Bob said the same thing in his press conference, or the post game. Excuse me, the post game. He said the same thing. He said, "Well, we were in a position where we actually felt pretty good." I think actually no. One of the reporters asked him. They said, "Did you guys consider onside kicking after you scored that touchdown?" And he said, "Well, no." He said, "We felt pretty good about it because," he goes, "really, we had 4 timeouts. We had the 2-minute mark and all 3 timeouts." On the I just saw Yo Fans comment as well.
I'm laughing at Yo Fans.
So you got to throw it up for everybody. Yeah, he did get me on that one as well. We'll talk about that as well. The flop on number 14 is just some of the wildest things I've ever seen. But
this poor guy's being dragged through Twitter.
Yeah, but yeah, Bob mentioned it. That 2-minute warning, or sorry, 2-minute whatever they call it, is 2-minute timeout.
2-minute timeout.
Yeah, bought us some time there. So that was big. It's kind of a squirrely thing, but that was big.
Yeah, and we scored, and there was still 3.5 minutes left in the game. Like, we only took 48 seconds to score that first drive, and I'll be honest, I felt confident. Weirdly enough.
Yes, I would agree with you. There's the momentum. There's a big momentum shift when we scored. There's no doubt about that.
With confidence too. But why are we confident that there's an opportunity for us to win? Our defense was just on the field for 10.5 minutes. We only let them sit down for 48 seconds, and now they're going back out there to play again. Why should anybody in the Dome feel confident about what they can do?
Mm-hmm.
But then we see the most perfect scenario play out in front of us. They were prepared for an onside kick. They were pushed up. Zeke Mata puts a nice squib right down the center, and it hits at the 1, and I'm like, oh, all right, touchback. And beelines it for the sideline instead and rolls on the 1 yard line. And NDSU, I mean, you got to be smart about it. You have to pick it up. You have to do something because we can pick it up. We then have the ball with 3.5 minutes to go, 3 yards or whatever it is, and he runs out of bounds. And all of a sudden, the Dome lit up.
Mm-hmm. It was kind of funny that you bring that up because, again, amongst our group, we're watching it and we're like, okay, are we going to onside kick? Like, I think we're going to kick it off. Like, there's enough time. I think we should kick it off. NDSU had no interest in that. They lined up an onside and they put, I think they had 1 guy back and he really wasn't back very deep. So I said that to, I think it was my dad sitting next to me. I said, if we kick this off, this could be a problem for them. Like, there's a lot of open space back there, which I get it from their perspective. They're not going to get caught with some squirrely onside kick, right? They'd rather just let it bounce to the end zone or wherever. But that was big. That was big. To Andy's point
Plus, they
too, I
probably
think.
know the onside rule kicks on the
Sure.
onside rules.
Yeah, they know the rule for that, right? So, but no, that was a big one, and um, I think getting that first down, Andy brought it up here as well. I can't believe that we,
Yes.
gave a first down that didn't suffer, right? I mean, that was the other part, is that they pick up the first down. I think after they pick up the first down is where we get that huge loss on it. I think it's like an 8-yard loss, if I remember. They tried some sort of pitch or swing play, if I'm recalling right. I hope I'm not mistaken for the wrong drive, but that at that point you started to feel really good about what was going on, because you're thinking, okay, it's 2nd and 18. We've got 2 timeouts. Yeah, Andy said, yeah, Grace blew the play up completely, right? So that gave him his 3rd tackle for loss on the day, and at the most timely time.
Exactly, and it's wild. And I'm just kind of looking at the play-by-play here as we discuss this. First of all, that was not offsides with contact. Just gonna say that now. I'm gonna tangent here just a little bit, but the inability for these refs to call anything against NDSU throughout the entire game was mind-blowing and frustrating. I'm allowed to rant about the refs, and even though we won, but it was bad. I remember AJ Coons had a dude roped all over him as he ran his route. Nothing. And there was 3 Coyotes. Like, what are you talking to the refs? Like, what are you doing? Why are you not calling that?
Yeah, you know how I feel about refereeing and how it affects the game, right? I guess I'd rather see them not throw flags than throw flags every 10 minutes like they did up at UND. But yeah, that was another thing that our group also had a consensus around, is that there was so much holding going on a consistent basis that actually, in my opinion, I think that actually altered a little bit of how we played defense in the second half, to your point about saying, okay, if we can't get a pass rush because we're being held and we can't get anything going, let's move to some coverages, and because we only brought 3-4 guys at times, and it just seemed like we were more comfortable going into a kind of cover, a coverage heavy type defense, if that makes sense.
Yep, with the quarterback spy. Yeah, and I will tell you guys. So I stayed in the dome after the game was done. First of all, I'll be honest. In their final possession, I was on the verge of passing out. I was yelling so loud. I actually was seeing spots. This is a true thing. But afterwards, you had come down a little bit before you could even walk. After, and so I was like, well, hey, the football players are coming up now. The landing right behind us is where they come up to meet their family, friends, and whatnot, and just kind of celebrate with some of the crowd that stays around. I got a chance to talk with Blake Holden just for a quick bit because his crew was there, his daughter was there. It was senior day. I didn't want to bother him too much, but I stood next to him, and his sleeves, his undershirt were ripped to shreds. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's clue number 1 that there was holding. The other thing that drove me nuts, Tice, it was in the first half, but Tice ran just a hook route and got absolutely obliterated by their linebacker before the ball got there. The linebacker got up and looked around for a flag. That is clue number 1 that it is pass interference. Like, I would have thrown the flag after seeing that reaction.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's always a dead giveaway, but it's yeah, I mean, it was a physical game. We knew it was going to be a physical game, right? You'd hope that maybe the refs keep it in check a little bit more. Overall, I don't think it necessarily impacted the result of the game, right? One way or another. I didn't, there was no back-breaking egregious calls, so that's always good. But I think we do have to transition to one thing, because we are almost 40 minutes in, and we have not said Javion Phelps on this show yet, and he has cemented himself into Coyote legacy with what he did on the field on Saturday.
Yes. And I mean, you started hinting at it a little bit. We were always curious, who's going to step up in JJ's spot. And I said AJ Coons actually because he had the nice size to him as a receiver, and I thought he blocked well. This was a JJ drive. Both of them were.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, credit to Javion Phelps. I would say this: he could be the receiver on a lot of teams. He is a fantastic athlete.
Mm-hmm. And it's
stuck with it.
funny because he did, and Bob mentioned that his press conference. I think Aiden also made a mention of that he said, Javion Phelps is a guy who goes to work every day, puts his head down, doesn't complain about reps, just goes to work, and that was evident on Saturday. And the thing that just boggles my mind is that sometimes you see a player who doesn't get a lot of reps, like Phelps, come in and make like a singular great play. He had 3 plays that changed the entire outcome of the game,
The
which is just
entire
unheard of.
outcome of the
And to your
season.
point, these were insane pitches.
Yeah.
Entire outcome of the season, right? I mean, and the more I think about it, I think the most impressive one that we forget about was the conversion that he did on 4th and
10.
was it 4th and 10?
Mm-hmm.
4th and 10. He's running straight up. Yeah, running like a seam route, if you will, where those routes put guys in position to where you can get blown up, right? That's a spot where safety can come down hard and really. So he hung in there. There was no huge hit on it, right? But if he doesn't catch that ball, if that play's not converted, game's over.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it was perfect. He maintained possession. He did the receiver job. And I shared it on Twitter. I had to poke fun at the Bunnies because one team that can actually beat NDSU, make sure their receiver gets a toe tap catch, and it is actually a toe tap catch, where the other team that can't beat them can't get that toe tap catch down. But I'm just going to say I called it a catch
and that's
from
a
the
good
other
point
side
too.
of the dome.
Yeah, I know that. So that's funny too. So the 4th and 10 play was not the toe tap catch, right? So that's the other crazy part too. So he has this 4th and 10, save the game, save the season on the line, and then 2 plays later makes a insane. Really, most receivers don't make that catch. I would say 9 out of 10 times nobody's getting their foot down for that. I mean, and to your point, I thought he was out. The angle, I couldn't see it. So I just saw them say out. I saw he was close to the sideline. Went, man. As soon as they put up on the screen, everybody in the dome went, oh, man, that's a catch. And that's a, top 10 play type catch. So
exactly.
Those 2 plays by themselves were insane. And then lo and behold, we all know how it ended. We've all seen the replay. Who's there to catch the game-winning touchdown wide open by the pylon? It's Javion Phelps. So I'm so happy for him, especially after hearing the way Bob and Aiden Bauman were talking about him, that, a true grinder to come in there and do that. Just awesome. So awesome.
Now, the USC football Twitter page shared the senior days, the list of senior days before the game. I retweeted it out, telling people get in, enjoy this. The amount of messages I got, why is Aiden going through senior day? It's a redshirt junior. And I did some asking around. I have a feeling he's getting a conversation from the next level. And I know a lot of people are like, what are you talking about? And I started bringing it up at the Indiana State game on that, put it in the slot. But then he goes and does this game, 18 for 30, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 2 game-winning drives, in my opinion, 48 seconds and a minute and 12, I think is the other one. But he put the Javion catch on the sideline exactly where it needed to go. He put that touchdown to Jack Martin exactly where it needed to go. Now, Javion made it easy on that last touchdown. He was wide open and he didn't have anybody guarding him really. But he put it exactly where it needed to go to score that touchdown. And I think Aiden just proved that he has the capabilities to go to the NFL now.
Yeah, I think he'll get an opportunity. I think I think to your point, I think somebody talked about, I think a lot of the senior day ceremony revolves more around the academic eligibility for a senior as well, right? But to your point,
Yep.
we live in a day and age now where you can leave at any time for any reason, right? I mean, with the way the portal operates,
Exactly.
and we saw the portal open mid-season this year, which is it's a whole nother discussion. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think the idea of him getting at least in the early stages, right, of the next level is it's intriguing, right? Because that's the other part too in that last throw. Not to break down too much X's and O's, but the way he steps up in the pocket and kind of climbs the ladder, so to speak.
Yes.
A lot of quarterbacks take a brutal sack there, and he, like we said, he's not gonna burn you for 40 yards, but his pocket presence, he's very aware. So
and that was just after taking a brutal sack.
Right, one play after taking a bad sack, no doubt.
I'm just like those kids too from the video earlier. Spike it, spike it. That's my other core memory from this. I was saying spike it there. And I think, that's what caught NDSU slipping too. They thought spike was coming. But then it goes back to my analogy of describe this USD offense. We have too many fishing poles on the deck. Hard to know exactly what to use.
Mm-hmm.
Well, your favorite lure was covered up by 3 players. Carter Bell was blanketed, and he pulled the safety in. Wide open, Javion Phelps. The rest is history.
Yeah. The speaking of names, I know Midco coined it the 4 minutes of magic. Someone else said that last throw, somebody called it the dagger at the dome, and I like those both. Those are great.
Ooh, the dagger's gonna stick. That was a good one.
It will. That is a good one.
All right, so we've climbed. Obviously, we've said it multiple times, biggest game in USC history. We've gone over our time that we usually go for this, but I think we do need to do player. Yeah, exactly. I knew we would. I actually wasn't really paying attention to the clock. I've been having fun with everybody here. This is the craziest we've seen in the chat too. The passion's reignited. We're ready to rock. But we do have to give out players of the game, offense and defense. I'll let you start us off. We can go on offense first.
Offense first. I think it's pretty obvious who I just absolutely gushed about here for the last 10 minutes. So I think Javion Phelps, I mean, that's like I said, he's literally a USD legacy game for him, right? To have one of the best moments, best games of all time in the Dome. So again, we know it doesn't happen from one person, but just the way it happened and so many consecutive, I mean, that's a no-brainer for me, and I think the rest of USD, the team would probably agree with that.
Exactly, and he's never gonna. My guy is not one to take the award. He's gonna hand it out to Tice, or he's gonna hand it to Phelps. But this all happens because of Aiden. Mm-hmm. The guy that was the calmest, the coolest I have ever seen him in the biggest situation. That was a stone cold killer out there in the final 4 minutes, 10 seconds. He was locked in, and he was going to drag this team whether they wanted to go or not. And so shout out to him. Shout out to Javion. Honestly, shout out to this team. I had an absolute blast in the Dome. I couldn't be happier with the results of this season and watching these guys play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the fun part, is that because they've been so good, it doesn't end, right? It doesn't end here at the regular season, and we've got more football to play here. So I'm looking forward to second season. I think the bye week, obviously well deserved, but comes at a timely time. Bob mentioned that as well. Some guys get healthy here over the next couple of weeks. Really no reason why you can't feel like these Yotes have a deep run in them for the playoffs. So, but sorry, we got to flip to defense. as well. I'll let you go first,
Exactly.
since I took first for
So,
offense.
yeah, I let you get the recency bias on your pick for offensive player of the game, because he only scores at the end of the game. But the guy that ended the game for us, Nate Ewell, absolute legend out there on the field all game, really. I mean, he set the edge. He did not give NDSU an opportunity to run on the outside very often. He called game.
Yeah. Yeah, I would. I don't think anybody would argue. I think that was Nate's best game of the season by far, and
On
when the
senior
lights were
day.
the brightest.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I have a feeling I know who
Yeah.
you're picking.
So
You made it pretty easy.
yeah, I was gonna say you made it easy on me. I thought for sure, but actually, harder than when I re-looked at the stat sheets and was kind of going through the game logs. It was a little bit harder, but
Yep.
I think because we spent some time on it, it's got to be Grace for me. He set the tone for the entire game in the first 3 plays of the game, right? I mean,
Yes.
he comes out there, sack number 1. I think they ran the ball and then sack again to end the drive. I'm sure that tackle for NDSU was a little shell shocked. I can't imagine that anybody can truly prepare for a guy like Grace, but to set the tone like that had to be done. Like we said, it was so important to not get behind from these guys, and so just like you said, as important as Phelps was at the end to end the game, Grace was important to start the game, and he got the momentum going. He got the dome rocking.
Exactly. But now with it, we all get to relax a little bit. I'll be honest, I felt like I played the game. The next morning, I was brutally sore, couldn't talk. Heck, I still can't talk, but I'm so pumped. I do kind of wish we had another game this weekend because of how much fun I had last weekend. But yeah, let's take a week rest. We got a wonderful schedule planned to fill this time prior to the playoffs starting. For all the people that are new here, I've been seeing a couple names popping up. Please subscribe before you leave. Give us a like and follow. But as always, it's a great day to be a Yote. Go Yotes.
Absolutely. Go Yotes.